Hello, innovators, entrepreneurs, and risk takers. Welcome to another episode of Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. And today I'm interviewing Riaz Mehta from Stream.io. And at Ritestream, they are building the next generation or the innovation that is needed in the field of streaming and content. They want to disrupt Netflix and other large media organizations. Let's find out how Riaz plans to do it, what they have achieved so far, and also talk about his experience of working in the movie and the TV industry over the last number of years and how they intend to bring capital back to people who are interested in creating amazing movies and TV shows. As always, nothing that we talk about on this podcast episode should be taken as investment or financial advice. And as always, if you find this enjoyable or if you learn something new from this, please share it on your social media and leave a rating or a review on whichever platform you are listening on. With all that out of the way, let's get into it.
Full.
Yes. So, Riaz, welcome to the show. Looking forward to interviewing you and talking about content and streaming and Web3, the intersection of all these things. So, yeah, let's just get started. How did you get involved in all things Web3 and blockchain?
Firstly, Sam, thank you very much for having me here today. I got involved in Web3 circa 2013. I was at a friend's party and someone mentioned to me that, hey, I've just bought some Bitcoin and this thing is going to go to $1 million. And I said, what the fuck? I had like $200 or something back then. And I thought, okay, if there's even a remote chance of it going to $1 million, then I'm just going to go and buy some anyway. And so I did. And that's where my journey began, because initially it was just like, let's take a punt because somebody said it's really cool. And then over the years, I started diving deep into the thesis behind blockchain and Bitcoin. And I think about circa 2017, I went to a talk in Singapore with Vitalik. And back then it was, you had to have a secret handshake to get into some of these events. And
Yes, exactly.
you know what it's like. So I turned up at this event and maybe 50, 60 people in the room, and Vitalik is there and having a fireside chat pretty much. And I
Yes.
thought, wow, this is amazing. And that's when I got really passionate about the space. And then I thought about how the space will transform industries, businesses, and the way we live and breathe, literally, in so many ways. And that kind of began a journey for me in looking at the impact that blockchain will have on the entertainment industry and the challenges that face that industry and how we can actually use this amazing technology to solve those challenges. So that's how I got started in this space.
Fantastic. And can you tell me a bit more about Ritestream and what problems does Ritestream solve?
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, as some of your viewers might know, that I'm a creator and I've been producing content for a long time, lots of reality TV shows. I've been nominated for Emmy Awards, done that whole journey. But prior to that, I was in tech. So I was a hardcore developer. I came in from that background. And so I was able to look at the industry from the outside. And one of the challenges that I faced myself was I'd come up with an amazing idea for a TV show, and then I'd go and pitch it to studios, to networks, to sponsors, and so forth. And I found that 9 out of 10 ideas got buried. They never got off the ground. And then I started
Absolutely.
because people wouldn't fund it. And even the times that people did fund something, what happens in our industry is studio comes and says, okay, I'll fund your film. But then they basically take control of the revenues and what happens with it. And if I look at shows on Netflix today, for example, I've got my show on Netflix, but a lot of people don't realize that when they've given it to Netflix, Netflix owns it in perpetuity.
Yes.
And the producer doesn't see a lot out of that in future. And they can do whatever they want with it. So you make a bit of money up front if you're so lucky as to get through the studio and get something made. So I went about to solve that problem. That how do we empower creators and let them execute their visions to its full potential and not be hampered by traditional chains that bind them today, right?
Yes.
Because What a studio is thinking about is, will this piece of content be commercially successful or not? And how much money can I make? Creator is thinking about, I've got this amazing story to tell. And that's the disconnect, right? From an audience perspective, they actually want to watch good stories. So
Yes.
what Stream does is it connects the creator with the fan base and essentially allows the creators to bring their ideas to life through fan-powered entertainment. Now the fans can actually participate in that journey of creation. And Sam, you can be a
Yes.
mini producer on our platform, literally, and don't have to give up your full-time job and basically say, you know what? I
Yes.
think this film is really cool. I'll take a punt on it. I'll put $500 on that and see what happens, right? But then
Yeah.
that starts an incredible journey for you because now you become involved in something a lot bigger, and then you get access to behind the scenes content. You might get invited to cool parties, but also this is an RWA play. You will end up earning some money as well. And if the film does incredibly well, then you have participated in that success. Imagine that you were part of John Wick on day one and what
Yeah.
that franchise became over time, right?
Yeah.
So that's the opportunity that we are offering to creators as well as to the community. Now what we have done is taken the control out of a handful of studios and networks that have controlled the game historically and said, why not let the community decide what's going to work? And why not empower the creators to actually execute their vision?
Yeah.
Make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. You probably answered my question on the Netflix already, but then there are other user generated content platforms, whether it is YouTube or Twitch for streaming, or there's a
Sure.
whole multitude of others. And then they have they lack the financial aspect. So then they connect it with Patreon or something like that. This is how it's done in the Web 2 world. Why go down the Web 3 route? And what's the benefit?
So the Web3 route, it does a couple of things. It introduces transparency, which Web2 does not have. So, for example, you put your $500 into a film. In the traditional Web2 world, the producer will say, yeah, I'll let you know when I get some revenues, and then they might never hear from them after that. Whereas in Web3, you can actually track the revenues and you can use smart contract to disseminate the revenues as well. So there's that degree
Absolutely.
of transparency. So you as an investor are protected in that journey as well. In Web2, you don't have that layer of protection. You've got a contract, and try and enforce that if you just invested $500. That's not going to work, right? That's less than your lawyer's fees for 1 hour. That's the benefit of Web3, that now everybody can participate. It's not for a select few that can go on this journey, right? That typically film financing is, you got to be high net worth individual and you have got to be able to afford these punts to see what's going to pay off. But now with Web3, you can have $100 to play with and you can still participate in that ecosystem and benefit from it.
That
So,
is such an excellent point. What do you feel like, or what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about decentralized streaming or decentralized content creation?
so the misconceptions are that it is not very different to what happens today in Web2. I don't think people understand what decentralization truly means, especially folks in Web2, right? They don't understand the power behind that, that as platforms like us develop and grow, ultimately there'll be a DAO, which will determine what movies get made on our platform.
Yeah.
And essentially the community has the voice. And today, what I find, even in Web3, that a lot of people come in and they're looking at, can I 100x my money? Can I buy a
Yeah.
token? And what can that do? What a lot of people forget is the underlying thesis, and the thesis that will transform the world in a way that most people can't even imagine today. And now you intersect that with AI, and
Yes.
that's a dynamite, right? So I feel we're at this amazing juncture where we're going to empower creators, we're going to empower communities, we're going to bring in AI into this whole mix. And that truly liberates the power of creativity, that truly brings together people and content and passion projects, and everything is possible now. Before, most of it was not possible. 99.5% of concepts that are pitched to studios never get made.
Yeah,
So, and that's what we're changing now. Now it'll be that a lot of concepts will get produced, monetized, and it'll enrich the lives of people that participate in that ecosystem.
absolutely. The biggest or one of the biggest hurdle is attracting those creators or top tier creators. How do you do that? How do you attract top tier creators to your platform?
So initially, as with any startup, you've done the startup journey yourself.
Yeah,
Initially, of course, you leverage your relationships, and that's what we do now. So we will go to studios that we're friendly with, that I've worked with before for a couple of decades, literally, and I'll say, "Hey, this is the platform. Come and try something with us." By doing that, is we bring established producers and brands to the table, which
yeah,
means we're protecting our community in the very early stages, so that when they invest in these projects, they know that the film is going to get made, that the film is going to get monetized. There's true value behind this. And of course, it's a journey, right, for the startup. You don't get to nirvana in 1 or 2 years. It does take a time. With AI, we'll get there a lot faster than we used to before. But over time, what will end up happening is that independent producers will come to the platform, because every producer that I talk to, they say, "Oh my God, this is amazing. How can I join the platform? How can I raise funds?" Because all they want to do is create, right?
yeah,
And if I give them that platform to create, then getting the producers on board is not an issue at all.
yeah, absolutely. How does your business model work? Who pays and how do you make money or how does Rightstream make money?
We've got two parts to our business. So I've been talking about the funding platform, which we call the Launchpad, essentially. And what happens there is that we take a share of the raise. So imagine $1 million is raised, then we might get 5 to 10% of that as a platform fee for helping raise that money. That model, folks like Republic have it, and Start Engine and so forth in the Web2 world. That's not that new. But what is new around this is that the way we actually enable these things to happen. So we use NFTs as your proof of ownership in a particular film. So you can say, I hold NFTs in that film, so it gives me rights to the revenue, it gives me rights to behind the scenes materials, it gives me rights to go to all the cool parties, etc., etc. That's the vehicle that we use. Now, we also have the right token, which basically, essentially, it's your way of participating in this ecosystem. And the more that you hold, you get a variety of different rewards, but also it gives you access. So when a really hot film launches on our platform, then the more that you hold, the higher access you have, the higher allocation you have, etc. Coming back to your point about where do we make money, so that's one avenue for us to make money. But the second pillar of our ecosystem is Ritestream Plus, which is literally Netflix on blockchain. So it's a
Yeah,
streaming platform. And what we do there is also disruptive in that in the traditional streaming world, either you pay a monthly subscription to Netflix or an Amazon, or you would watch content for free and watch ads, right? In the
yes,
AVOD model. But you as a consumer, your only benefit is you watch the content. Now, when you come to Rightstream Plus, we say, hang on, you as a consumer are sharing your information with my advertiser by watching this content. And
yeah,
therefore, you should get rewarded for that data that you're sharing. And so it's a view to earn mechanism, so that the revenues are generated through advertising, and
yes,
you watch for free, and it's all tracked. The ad revenues are tracked on the blockchain. And then you can see, okay, this much revenue generated, I watched this much content, therefore I get this much revenue back to me. Again, the transparency, right? And
yeah,
then, of course, platform takes a percentage of the revenues because we have operating costs. Percentage goes back to the creator and to the viewer. 10% of the revenues goes back to buy back our token as well. So
yeah,
we're building this flywheel that the more content you watch, the more revenues are generated, the more tokens are burned. So you benefit as a token holder. And ultimately, it keeps feeding itself. It's a feedback loop.
yeah. Very cool. I have so many questions. Just
Yeah,
wondering, can you also then go and stake this token and earn staking rewards?
100%. Because then being in our ecosystem, and what I say to our community is that, look, this is a long-term play. If you're
Yes.
expecting 1,000x tomorrow, then you'll get that with your meme tokens, right?
Yes.
But for a utility token, utility builds over time,
Yes.
and you build scale over time as well.
Yeah. Builds
And
with
then
adoption over time.
and the early adopters, they benefit from that because they believed in it and they come for the journey. But you've got to understand the fundamental business model, how this operates, so that you can see how this is a deflationary mechanism for the token and how anyone that participates benefits long term, not just by staking, but the fact that as our revenues grow, we continue burning more tokens, reducing the supply as well. And the more successful movies that come onto the platform, the bigger communities we attract as well. Because remember, every producer that comes to the platform will promote this to their own community as well.
Yeah.
So automatically, we start to bring in some demand from people that we wouldn't tap into otherwise. And my personal vision is that
Yes.
everybody on the planet should be on Web3. And right now it's less than 10%. And so I feel that platforms like ours will encourage more people to come in as well.
I think so. You never know when you suddenly hit that inflection point and then it just
Yeah.
goes exponential. Coming back to streaming, I was looking at your platform and there is already quite a bit of content there. What sort of content have you seen do really well on your platform? Who are your ideal viewers or who are the viewers currently?
Action adventure films do really well. Depending on geography, comedy does well in certain markets as well. Dramas, especially in Asian markets, dramas tend to do quite well for
Yes.
us. And our typical audiences, they vary a little bit. A lot of them are more crypto native at the moment because that's
Yeah.
what we have been targeting. But over time,
Mm.
I think the adoption curve will go up. And the age demo will be 18 to 45. So it's relatively broad. But again, the folks that will be more kind of tech savvy into crypto, and even some of the content that you'll see on our platform is skewed that way at the moment.
Yeah.
And we are actually quite fortunate that I have a Web2 company as well, Sam. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but it's called All Rights, and
Yeah.
it's a marketplace for film and TV content. So we have tens of thousands of film and TV titles there. And because we're a sister company, we get sweetheart deals to actually get that content onto our platform. So for us to scale with content is relatively easy because of this ecosystem that we have already
Yes.
created.
That makes so much sense. The other thing is, I might be wrong, but I view Netflix differently to YouTube. So Netflix, Prime, Hulu, and all these platforms, I not only view them as partly creators and distributors, but also curators because they choose what goes in and what doesn't go in. Whereas YouTube doesn't. In like
Right.
anyone can go up and put your breakfast there. Anything doesn't matter. It's a bit like social media and just a massive distribution engine. How do you do curation in a decentralized system?
Oh, I think decentralized system is a perfect platform for curation because imagine this, you've got tens or hundreds of thousands of people in a community, and when this becomes truly decentralized and the DAO determines what goes on, then you're not relying on the opinion of a programmer within Netflix to say, I think this show is really cool. So now you'll have real people voting on it and saying, you know what, I really want that on this platform. And it comes back to blockchain is all about power to the people, right?
Yeah.
And that's what this does, that in a decentralized streaming platform, the people have the voice to say, this is the content I want to see. And even in terms of what gets made on our platform in a DAO environment, then people will determine this film is really cool. Now, the other interesting thing about this is that when that film is getting made and you've got, say, 10,000 people investing into that movie, you've got these people actually helping you craft the narrative to say, ending A is good or ending B is good, and what will work. So you've got people that are vested in the success of that, and
Yes.
your chances of success are exponentially improved as a result.
Yep. Do you think Netflix or other streaming platforms like Netflix will exist in their current form in the next 10 years?
I don't think Reed Hastings will like my answer, but my short answer is no, not in their current form. I think they will have to undergo fundamental transformation as well, both in terms of what they stand for, what kind of content they have, how they produce content. And I think they will need to undergo a pivot. But there's some incredibly smart people behind these platforms. So I'm pretty sure that they'll figure that out. And we'll see some really cool things happen as a result.
What is it that you feel like that Hollywood doesn't get about, or the mainstream movie industry or TV series or content industry doesn't get about Web3?
My short answer is everything. Even producers that are fairly close to us that I've known for years and years, I would say, this is what we're going to do. And they think it's a crowdfunding platform. That's all it is. They don't understand the intricacies behind it and how the community actually gets involved because they have not been exposed to this before. And now they're starting to get exposed in terms of how this is all truly fan-powered entertainment and the benefit that they have when the community gets behind it. In a very traditional sense, a producer can spend $50 million making a movie and then has to spend another $50 million to actually promote that movie. That movie, if it's funded on our platform, two things are going to happen. One is that they'll be using a lot more AI tools to actually make that movie, so their cost is going to shrink. But also, their marketing dollars will also shrink because now they've got a community amplifying that content and they've got a naturally built marketing machine behind it. Studios don't get it yet. A lot of
Yeah.
producers don't get that yet. And as you said before, we'll get to a tipping point where it'll be an aha moment for everyone. We haven't reached that yet.
Yes. I think it will happen once we have some really big hits made purely on decentralized. And we haven't had that moment. I still feel Netflix is still disrupting Marvel and Disney and all these old school content generation, which are more of the same content. And I think Netflix has done a marvelous job at curation and even creation. This is July 2025, and then the biggest movie of last month, I would say, it's probably K-pop Demon Hunters.
That came out of nowhere.
Yes, the bands don't even exist in real life. It's all
That
made up, and it's very
phenomenal.
original and very different. Whereas all the Disney's movies and Marvel movies follow the same script. Yesterday, I was watching a documentary on Indian cinema and user generated, made by comparing that the last 80 or 90 years of Indian cinema, how they are all made as a copy of some overseas movie that did well. Because
Yeah.
that's what producers wanted, a guarantee that did it do well somewhere else, then you adapt that story to whether it's the same old story of twins getting separated at birth in 1960s, or even the silent movies were all copies of overseas movies, or they even have Tamil movies be more original and then copy them.
And you know what? Hollywood does the same.
Yeah.
They had this franchise and they say, you know
Yes.
what? There's 100 other scripts sitting here, but that's a safe bet. I'll just
Yeah.
repeat that one. And
It's
we
like
do another Wolverine.
yeah.
Exactly.
So it's the same old, and that's why new fresh content is needed. And that's why I always thought YouTube is quite a big threat, but I feel like the Web3 version could be the next layer. What I feel, in my personal opinion, that stops Web3 is all the learning that people need. It needs a lot more abstraction. It's to watch Netflix, I just need to press one button. I don't need mental load to do few more actions. So the less actions that are required from a user, the faster the adoption curve will go.
100%. And we realize that as well. So if you come to Ritestream Plus, you have the option to connect your wallet, but you don't have to. You can just sit there and watch content. So if you're a traditional Web2 viewer, you can say, Stream Plus has some cool content. Let me go and check it out. And
Yes.
you have the lean back experience. But now I want to start earning some money, then I can connect my wallet. So I take that action because there's a real reward behind that as well. So then
Yes.
people don't mind taking that action per se. And if you're not concerned about the reward, then you just lean back and watch. And that's all
Yeah.
good too. The mass adoption will happen when we make it super simple for people to interact with
Yeah.
three. It's what's your 24-word phrase and have you stored it properly or not? And that is too much for a lot of
Yeah, it
people.
is too much. There'll always be some hardcore fans who would go and do all sorts of things, and they will get something here, put it in a lending borrowing protocol, and do 10 different things and loop the
Yep.
reward. But that's a minority. And
But
unfortunately, we keep on building products for that minority because that's already there. We just need more abstraction so that it just works. Everything just plays and it's
no,
less mental load.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with a show I've just produced called Kryptonites.
Heard of it, but I haven't had the chance to watch it yet.
So it's essentially a Web3 version of Shark Tank, but with a few cool nuances introduced in terms of how it plays out. We've got a KOL panel in there as well. And the show is on Amazon Prime at the moment, and it's rolling out in the US, UK, out to the rest of the world. But that show was funded on the Ritestream platform as a proof of concept. And the fact that we could produce a high caliber show there with celebrities like Adrian Grenier and Brock Pierce, etc., in the series is a great proof point that Web3 will create the next hit series. But the point I was coming to is that when we cast for that show, we're looking for projects that have real world appeal so that they're not too esoteric and or what you mentioned before, that a lot of people are developing for that 1% that is very deep into crypto. Whereas what we need are projects that will appeal to the masses that don't need to understand that I need a 24 phrase sentence to actually store away. And that can simply come in a simple user interface and interact with that project. So our casting actually takes that into account to make sure that projects have real world applications that your everyday mom and pop can watch the show and then say, hey, I'm going to download the Blue Whale app and it's going to make me money. And that's what we need to get to bring massive adoption into Web3.
Amazing. I have just last two more questions. And second last question is that you've been in this field for quite some time, whether it's content, streaming, media, as well as Web3 and blockchain. You've known about these fields. What would you do differently if you were starting your company now?
If I was starting my company now, look, when I got into Web3, I didn't understand how the narratives move within different cycles and so forth. And timing is quite important. So the things that I would do is I would understand the narrative for where we are as well, because that's a faster way to grow the company, because when you're working with the
100%.
narrative. And I've learned so much. Unfortunately, there's a lot of scams in Web3. There's a lot of people that promise that they'll do stuff that they never deliver. And at first you think, hey, I don't know enough about the space. Maybe this guy knows what they're doing. And there are a lot of ripoffs, right? So what I've learned now is that Web3 is not that different to Web2. The business fundamentals still remain the same. And there's no silver bullet, there's no magic pill that's going to change that. And things happen a lot faster, but it's always about building a solid foundational business, and then the rewards will come automatically. And often one can get swayed by community sentiment. People say, you got to do this, you got to do that. And as a founder, what I've learned is that you just got to focus on the business and signal to noise ratio. Just focus on the signal, basically.
Absolutely. In fact, in some ways, it is even more old school than Web 2 in a
Yeah,
way that a lot of it is relationship based. Even this conversation is happening because I know someone and someone knows me in a mutual company who introduced you to me, and everything is introduction based. And that's why people go to so many events because everyone works
exactly.
remote and then people meet and they form partnerships, they connect with other platforms, and a lot of those things are happening in a very sort of a human way instead of the tech way. I have actually one or two more questions, and that
My calendar is open for the
how
next
do
20
you
minutes.
what do you think AI is going to do the whole content streaming media industry?
Transform it in ways most people cannot imagine today. My imagination runs wild when I think about what it'll do, right? So, firstly, making content becomes a lot easier and more cost effective. And those special effects that used to cost us tens of millions of dollars will not cost that anymore. We'll have decentralized GPUs that we can actually tap into for compute power and do things cost effectively. So $100 million movie might get made for $20 million now. And a lot of that could be just talent costs. Now, even that will be disrupted because I think even talent will start to be generated with AI. And your new celebrities, your new heroes could potentially be AI generated. I see an explosion of content happening as a result because creativity will be allowed to blossom. People will be able to bring more ideas to life. A combination of platforms like Ritestream and AI allows them to make a movie for $1 million and it looks like a $20 million movie. And then Rights Plus automatically gives them the reach as well. They don't need to go to lots of distributors to try and monetize that content. So I see the space transforming very dramatically. I think as a consumer, in not too distant future, you'll be able to choose who the actor is playing the lead role is going to be. And then actors can make more money because now consumers are choosing them and not just the studio. The paradigm shift is phenomenal. And it's a really exciting time to be alive.
It is very exciting time to be alive, but I just wonder where is the value gonna go? If the cost of production goes down to zero, does distribution become more valuable? Where does the value start to accrue?
I think the value always will be in data and in eyeballs. Your point about distribution is very valid. You can have an amazing piece of content. If nobody watches it, then what's the point, right?
Yes.
So I think distribution will become more and more valuable over time, much more than it is today. The wider the distribution, the more data is collected as well. And that generates more revenues. So that's the value accrual, the way I see it.
Fantastic. That is such an amazing insight that you just shared for every entrepreneur who works in anything to do with this industry. With all that, my last question is, what is your ask? What are you looking for? Are you looking at hiring? Are you looking at fundraising? Anything else? Feel free to share.
Sure. My ask is a couple of things. Of course, we are raising funds. And as an entrepreneur, my life has always been about raising funds, one way or the other, for whichever business I'm involved with. That is important. But equally important are communities. I want more people to join our ecosystem. I want more people to participate because ultimately that's what will get us to the tipping point. Money is the lesser important thing in any equation, I believe. That you can do lots of things without money. But if you have the right community behind you and if you have that momentum, then the money follows. So they're the two things I'd be looking for. So check out Ritestream.io and see what we're building. Join our Telegram groups, come and join our AMAs, talk to us. Go and watch Kryptonite's TV show. That's the other thing I will say, because whether you're a crypto native or a newbie, there's always learning, and it's a really fun show to watch. And come participate, be part of that journey.
Yeah, fantastic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put all these links in the show notes, in the description, or the comment section on any of the platforms it goes. So people can reach out to you and find out more about Rightstream and find some amazing content or benefit and profit from it. Thank you so much, Ria, for your time and continue building.
Thanks, Sam. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to meeting again soon.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening or watching this episode of the Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. By now, you know the drill. Leave a comment or share this episode with a friend and leave a review. I would love to hear from you. So that's why my DMs are open. Reach out to me, especially if you are a founder building a product in Web3. Then I would love to hear from you. What are your challenges? Is there anything that I can help you or my community can help you with? Thank you once again and wish you best of luck in building your startup or your project.